Hey everybody, it's Alzay Calhoun. We are live once again. We're in episode number 2 or broadcast number 2 for our Facebook Marketing Leaders Lab Facebook group. And so I appreciate everybody for showing interest in being on these content pieces. It's a pleasure for me to do them. I've got an agenda here, so let's just kind of get to work. Again, first of all, thank you. Thank you to everyone who's in the group, asking questions, honestly engaging. I can't tell you what a pleasure it is to see the quality of conversations that are happening. There are newbie questions, there are advanced questions, but as everyone dialogues back and forth, we all get a little smarter, and isn't that the point? All right, excellent. All right, number 2. Everything we talk about in this group, in this community, is about how to design a better agency. We're less interested in the marketing hacks of the day. There will always be a marketing hack of the day, some new software program, some new tool, functionality, chatbot, content marketing this, whatever. There'll always be a new thing. But if you don't design a good agency, none of those things matter. So this is the leadership perspective, your perspective as the leader of the business, the owner of the business, to create a better agency. All right, great. So now let's get into some of the heavy lifting of today, some of today's content, some of the things that have been going on in the community, things folks have been struggling with. One of my favorite words is the word approach. And I'm going to find myself saying this word more and more often, approach. Why? Because you can't drive a car across an ocean. It's an impossible task. You cannot drive a car across an ocean. That's a matter of approach. It doesn't make sense to take your car and drive it across an ocean. Even if you are a world-class driver, your vehicle won't make it across the ocean. And too many times I'm interacting with people, I'm hearing the questions, we're interacting, and they've asked a question that really is an example of a poor approach. People just poor approach. So what happens practically is you end up asking questions about your car. Well, what's wrong with my car? Should my car have more gas or less gas? Should it have a smaller engine or a bigger engine? Should it be, did I buy the wrong car? Did I, do I need to change my tires? Should I change my paint job? And you're asking all these questions about the car. It doesn't matter what kind of car you've got. If you're trying to drive a car across an ocean, it's a bad deal. Okay. So approach. When you take a better approach, when you decide to use a boat, it's a whole lot easier. If you decide to take your car on the road, it's a whole lot easier. It's a matter of approach. Okay. Let's talk about approach, and let's talk about client acquisition. There were a number of threads over the past week that dealt with client interactions, talking with clients, working with clients, trying to get new clients, and we, as people in the group who sell services, are a bit frustrated at how those interactions are going. Essentially, clients don't get it. They don't get the value of digital marketing services. They don't understand how to buy digital marketing services. They're asking the wrong questions. They're over-focused on price, et cetera, et cetera. What's up with that? What's wrong with these clients? Why are they so not smart, right? Practically, approach. You can't get mad at the client for being a client. You can't get mad at the prospective client for being a prospective client. The same way you can't get mad at the ocean for being the ocean. If you're trying to drive your car across the ocean, you can't get mad at the ocean for being the ocean. It's what it is. It's a big body of water. That's what it is. So in interacting with potential clients, you can't get mad at them for being potential clients. Number one, they often aren't really sure about what they're buying. They don't really know what digital marketing is. They may have a website, they may have a social media presence here or a social media presence there, but they don't really know what digital marketing is. You do. You work on it all the time. You study it all the time. You play in it all the time. You've got testing sites and testing platforms and things that you kind of tinker with all the time. So your level of understanding of digital marketing is way beyond the person you're talking to. And you just can't get upset with them when they don't understand it the way you understand it, when they don't value it the way you value it, when they don't have your particular perspective. So when you stop being upset with them for not speaking your language intuitively, when you stop being upset with them, here comes issue number 2, is oftentimes your prospective client doesn't understand their real problem. So not only do they not understand the service that you're offering, not only do they not, and I'm having a power issue, so please hold just a moment. We're live. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. Here we go. So not only can you just not get mad at them for being a client, because a client is what they are. Secondly, they don't understand their problem. They don't really understand their problem, and they don't really understand how digital marketing can resolve that problem. So again, they're talking to you and they're trying to communicate their problem as best they can, and they're trying to communicate how digital marketing can solve that problem as best they can. And they're not going to do it well. So a lot of the friction that you feel when you're on the phone, a lot of the frustration that you feel when you get off the phone, like why they don't get it, they don't understand, like why are they so caught up on price? Why are they asking for the 4th, 5th proposal? Why do we need to talk to the 3rd, 4th, 9th different person? Like what's all that about? And the essence of that is because they really don't know what they're doing. Their expertise is not digital marketing, it's yours. Their expertise is something else. So then what do you do about that? Your job is to put your service in context. And that is your job. So your job is to understand the problem facing that company. And then your job is to put that problem in context. Your job is to help them say, okay, if that's what you've got going on, this thing, and you want to get that fixed, here's how digital marketing can help with that, help resolve that problem. Or maybe even more specifically, here's how our approach in digital marketing, here's how the way we do video, the way we do content, the way we do SEO, the way we do landing pages, the way we write email copy, the way that we do analytics, the approach that we take with digital marketing will help resolve that problem. And then that will get you where you want to be. You have to have that skill. You've got to be able to put your service in context. It's unfair to expect your potential client to be able to speak the language of HTML and email subject lines and video resolution sizes and all the other fancy stuff, split testing metrics and cost per click and cost per acquisition. And if you're expecting your client to have all that stuff, immediately top of mind, good luck. You're going to find that frustrating. It's not happening, right? It's not happening now. It's your job to put your service in context. And for you, you may just have to admit for a minute that you don't have that skill. You're not good at that. You're good at doing the work and you're excited about doing the work and you can talk about the work, but getting the client to appreciate that work and putting that work in the context may not be something you're very practiced at. And so you got to figure that out. Caveat or kind of, watch out here. What I'm describing is not a sales conversation. So, there's a whole thing called sales. And for a moment, we'll just kind of pause on that. But I'm not describing some series of psychological hacks that you can do in a sales conversation to close a sale. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about honestly understanding the problem facing your potential client. Do you even know what that is? Do you even know what that is? Okay, so then can't get mad at the client for being a client. In fact, it's your job to put your service in context. That's a skill. It's a skill you got to learn and get better at. Okay. So now there was another question that was related to that. I'm going to look into the group here and I'm going to pull up what that question is. So, so how do you go about, so the question here is, how do you go about identifying the primary problems of a single target market? So if we're talking about problems, right? How do you go about identifying those problems and developing a productized service to solve those problems at scale? So there are a couple of things there. Let me write those down really quickly here. So one is, how do you go about identifying the problems, right? How do we do that? How do we identify real problems? Two, how do we develop a service? Okay, develop the right service. We use the term productized service, and then how do we do that at scale? Okay, so now, all right, identifying problems. How do you do that? Okay, there are places you can go online. There's good basic research you can do online, and much of this you already know, but you may miss the power of it because, again, marketing hack of the day, right? On and on. All right. One is Google's autocomplete. Google, at this point, as a search engine, does a phenomenal job. It's what they do, right? Of making sure that when someone types something into Google, they get the response that they want. They get the search findings that they want. And so Google has begun to anticipate what you want with this Google autocomplete. You type in a phrase, what is marketing? And they may say, what are marketing hacks? What are marketing secrets? What are marketing departments, etc. Right? So the Google autocomplete is one way. If you type in the beginning of a phrase, of a statement, Google will kind of finish that for you. And anything that comes up there are the kinds of things people are already searching for. All right? So Google autocomplete, that's one right there. Simple, free, fast, excellent. Another place specifically is Quora. So Quora, Quora.com, right? Quora is a question and answer site. That's what it is. So people go to Quora, they ask specific questions, and they're looking for specific answers. So search Quora, look through Quora, and figure out what are people in your marketplace specifically asking about. There you have it. Those are other problems. Now, one more to those. There's always a forum, an industry-focused forum, meetup, etc. And all of those industry forums, meetups, etc., always have, or in those conversations, are there problems. People talk about, hey, I'm struggling with X. Anybody have any ideas about that? Hey, I hired someone to do Y, but I didn't get full return. Whatever, I did this, did that, etc. So those are three places where you can go to immediately find real problems that your potential audience is struggling with. Okay, great. Now, next level of that is about service. How do you develop a service? There's more savvy required here than what the marketing message of the day is currently telling you. The current marketing message of the day is just tell them what you do. Tell them what you sell, right? So you do SEO, you do video, you do content, you do digital marketing, you do website design, and all that stuff sounds great when you're talking to your fellow marketers, right? Your fellow agency owners. But when you're talking to a client, they have no idea what those things mean. So your client is less interested in your savvy in designing a website. Your client is less interested in your savvy in designing their new logo, is less interested in designing a comprehensive social media campaign. Your client's less interested in that. Your client is interested in solving that problem you learned about on Quora, that you learned about in Google, that you learned about on whatever place you found it. Your client is interested in solving that particular problem. So what you have to do is design a service that solves that particular problem. Somewhere inside the service is your digital marketing expertise, somewhere in there. But that isn't the only thing in the service, right? So if your client is trying to get more visibility online, maybe SEO is the way that you go about doing that. But SEO is not the only thing that goes in that service. There are other things that are needed to make SEO work well in their environment. Your job is to provide all of those things so that problem that they had when they came to you is completely resolved. So there's a whole process of getting clients ready to do work. Then there's a process of doing the work. And then there's a process of checking on that work to make sure it met the appropriate metrics. Your service must be designed that way. And I bet if you take an honest, objective look at your own service, it's not designed that way. Your service is designed to do work. If they want pay-per-click done, you'll just do it. If they want content written, you'll just do it. You don't care where it goes. You don't care how they use it. You don't really care. You'll just do what they ask you to do. And that's the way to go. But you'll find that clients don't fully appreciate what you're doing because you're just doing work. So the only way to get value from that work on both sides, for you and the client you're serving, is to give it context. Make sure your service solves the real problem. That's a design conversation, y'all. You've got to design a service that does that. It doesn't do it all by itself. You have to specifically, intentionally, and purposefully design a service that does that. It's not immediate. It's not automatic. Okay. So how do you get that same idea to scale? So now that you know what the service is and you've broken that service out, we call that productizing a service, right? Giving it structure, productizing. By the way, productized. Set time, set scope, set price. Productized service, packaged up, set time, set scope, set price. So when you've got that established, now you got the milestones organized. Now you can begin to delegate the work. Now you can hire people to do specific elements of the productized service. There's your scale. So whether you do those steps through some version of software, or you do them through hiring subcontractors, or you do it through an internal process that you have inside the business, but now you got this thing that you can scale, right? And that's what you're after, right? You got a thing you can organize, begin to delegate, automate, and scale. So there's a complete response. There's a complete response to that question. Approach, though. It's a different approach. It's not just selling blank services. It's actively solving blank problems. And that's a much different approach. And we're not driving a car across an ocean anymore. We know what we're driving, a car, and we know where we're trying to take it. Ocean, not ocean, maybe the road, or swap the car, get a boat so we can travel across the ocean the way we need to. It really is a much different approach. Okay. So I'm going to move on here. I'm going to move on. And there was another set of questions that were here. So there's a question about best social media to use. This is about lead generation. Best social media to use: LinkedIn, Facebook, etc., to get premium clients, and some short-term strategies. So here's practical response. There is a place right now where you have the most momentum, where you've been doing the most work. Maybe you're on Facebook most often. Maybe you're on LinkedIn most often. Maybe you're on Pinterest or Twitter or Instagram or whatever social media. There's plenty of them, right? One of those places where you've put in the most effort. You're there the most. Somebody in that community is looking for help. And so your job is to ask the question: does anybody in this group need help with X? Just ask the question. If you got a profile here on Facebook, right? Your next personal post on your own account. Does anybody any friends of mine need help with X? Are any friends of mine suffering from X problem? Does anybody here, need a little help with or some assistance with X? And if you just post that, somebody's going to respond. Now, will a client fall from the sky? I don't know about all that. I don't know your situation. I don't know how hard you've been working on this stuff. I don't know. But very practically, what I'm trying to say is that there's people around you in your immediate space who appreciate who you are, and it's appropriate to just ask if anybody here needs help, and just see what happens. See if you can get a response. If you need to be a bit more aggressive, do the opposite. Meaning, wherever you spend the most time, take a look at your list of contacts and do some direct outreach. Hey, John, haven't talked to you in a while. Do you still need help with blank? Hey, Sue, do you still need help with blank? Make the ask, reach out. It doesn't get more practical than that. Okay, done. LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. Which platform is the best? It depends on where your audience is, number one. It depends on where you are best, number two, like what your skill set is. There's some conversation you got to have to kind of figure out how to approach all that. But I think what I just offered you is the most straightforward way to think about it. If you're trying to do something today, right now, what I just described is the most intelligent thing I think to do today, right now. All right. So other topics here. So these questions are about list management. So can you ever have a list that's too big? How do you think about non-responders, people who are not responding? How do you know if emails are making a difference and resonating? And how do you follow up? Phone call, email, LinkedIn. Okay, so there's a lot there. What I would ask if we were having this conversation one-on-one is I would ask, what approach are you currently taking? Because as marketing folks, or folks who work in marketing, that you can take all those things, the list, the social media properties, and blah, 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 blah. You can take that stuff and mix it around 1,000 different ways. There's 1,000 different ways to do this first, that second, this, big old deal. So what are you currently doing today? How are you currently navigating all that stuff today, right? Okay. Number 2 question, are you measuring the effectiveness of any of that stuff? Or are you just doing it? There are a lot of people who are just doing it. So are you actively measuring the effectiveness of that stuff? The answer is probably no. All right. And so do you even know how to measure the effectiveness of the effort that you're currently taking? If you do not have an approach, and if you're not actively measuring the effectiveness, scrambled effort. There's your scrambled effort. There's your frustration, right? An approach that you can't see and a metrics that you can't see. There's your frustration. So what do you do? How do you think about that more practically? Okay. This list, the question that we have here about the list, what I don't know is if this is a cold list that was purchased somewhere, or if it's a permission-based list that folks signed up for information. I don't know. I can't quite tell from the question. Depending on kind of where you are with that, you can get some different responses here. If you have a permission-based list, let's go with that first, because that is the most intelligent thing to do. One of the things we should all be doing is developing permission-based lists in our business. People who are asking for more information, et cetera, et cetera. You need to be on some sort of calendar or schedule communicating with that list. It can be daily, it can be weekly, it can be monthly. There are, again, 1,000 ways of doing it. But for the sake of efficient communication here, you need to be on some sort of rhythm in communicating with that list. That list should be expecting to hear from you, and they should expect or have expectations of what your communication is going to be, what's going to be in that communication. That rhythm will create opportunities all by itself. So without even having to make the hard ask, can I help somebody? We want new clients. Do you want to sign up? Without even making the hard ask, just simply being in rhythmic communication keeps you top of mind, so that when a problem does really pop up, they know who to call. You're the first person that they think about. You get a response. But if you've got no rhythm, if you're not doing what you're doing consistently and constantly, bad approach, right? It's broken before you can even get started, right? Okay. Non-responders and stuff like that. We don't want to be concerned with the non-responders. Like you want to be concerned with the folks who say yes to you, right? You say yes to the folks who say yes to you. So if you've contacted someone, 9 times and gotten no response, they probably don't want to hear from you, right? So especially if it's a cold situation, where you bought a list from somewhere or rented a list and you're doing that kind of outreach, you reached out 9 times and you got no response. Well, probably doesn't want to hear from you, right? But if someone's already asked for information, permission-based, they've asked for information, inbound, they've asked for information, and you haven't gotten a response yet, then you just stay on your rhythm. See how simple that became? You just stay on your rhythm, and eventually they'll respond or they'll opt out. You just keep on your rhythm. So to one of the things we talk about in the group, and also work I do with my clients, is to organize your agency into 3 essential systems: client acquisition, client service, and client retention. Those should be systems that live in your business. Documented processes, step-by-step processes that exist in your business. Client acquisition, a system for that. Client service, a system for that. And client retention, a system for that. And so then what happens inside your business is you're now working your systems. You're now working your rhythms. And you're not trying to recreate the business every single day. You're not trying to start from scratch every single day. You're not panicked or scrambled like you may have been for the last so many months or so many years. But developing systems, committing to those systems, and getting return from those systems is a leader's attitude. It's not a marketer's attitude. It's not a scrambled marketing of the day. Ooh, this is cool. Ooh, that's cool. You know, entrepreneurial ADD. It's not that kind of attitude. It's a leader's attitude. You got to take a step back, take a look at your business as a business, and say, okay, this system needs to be better. First of all, I need to have a system. It's got to be better. This system, I need a system for it. It's got to be better. This needs a system. It's got to be better. And if you can't break from your business to build those systems, you're going to find yourself still scrambling. How about that? All right, cool beans. All right, so those are some of the questions that were summary of what we've been talking about in the group. Some of the questions that were submitted before. And I've got a question now. Hey Nelson, I've got a question now. I lose focus. How do I stay focused? All right, I actually have a response here, but I'm trying to make sure I say it in a way that's concise and the most helpful immediately. I just explained that there are 3 essential systems that need to be in your business: client acquisition, client service, and client retention. If you don't have those systems, that's your first priority. Build them. Get some sort of system for client acquisition, some sort of system for client service, some sort of system for client retention. Get it done. Figure it out. Get it done. You need help? I've got a program. You want to go do it yourself? That's totally cool. But these are business essentials. Okay. If you don't have those 3 systems, nothing else is important. Nothing else is important. If you don't know how to acquire new clients consistently, you got to figure that out. If you don't know how to serve clients at a high level consistently, you got to figure that out. If you don't know how to retain clients for the long term, you got to figure that out. Those 3 things are the most important. So all the other emails you get, all the other social media notifications that blink on in your browser, all the other forums you could be in, and blog posts you can read, and YouTube channels that you could go browse through. Those are all unimportant. They just became secondary, all of them. So refocus yourself back on one of those 3 things because you know it's important, and begin to put some real mechanics around one of those 3 because you can only do one at a time, and begin to put real mechanics around one of those 3. Now, one level deeper than that, every day in your business, you owe some clarity on one of those 3 things. Every day in your business, you've got to look at client acquisition and say, is that happening the way I want? That's the way we lined it up. But is it happening that way? Are the metrics being hit? Are the KPIs, as they call them, right? You know, KPIs, key performance indicators. Are they happening the way I expect? And if they're not, fix them right now, because that's important. Same thing with client service, same thing with client retention. That's the first thing you do every day. The first thing you do every day is check in on those core systems and make sure that they're healthy. If they're healthy, wonderful. You can go play around. If they're not healthy, fix it. Get into it. Address it. Thinking that way has saved my business. There are so many distractions. There's so many newsletters I was on, so many social media accounts I was just trying to figure out, et cetera, so many clients I was chasing, et cetera, et cetera. Focusing on those 3 things has greatly changed the way my everyday flows. So I offer that concept to you. Hey, Lynn, I offer that concept to you. It's a game changer. It's a game changer. But what it's going to do is force a new set of behaviors out of you. There's some stuff you can't go play with right now. There's some things that you love to go read that you can't read right now. There's some YouTube videos you want to watch, blah, 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 blah. Some places you might want to go, these networking sessions, et cetera, that you might want to go to and kind of hang out and see what's new. You got to say no to those things now, because when you look at the core function of your business, there's some things that are still not happening the way you want. And those things come first. So excellent. Great. All right. What else do I have? Let me see. Let me check here. Were there any other questions? Any of the questions that came? So I took care of my early questions. So Lynn makes a recommendation about reading ReWork. It's a great book on prioritizing and scheduling. I've never read ReWork, but I will say that what I have found most valuable about books like that is that the approach is good. You know, kind of the mindset, the overall strategy is good. But you've got to make sure. But you know, they've all got their 90-page planners at the back, right? And you're looking at that 90-page plan. You're like, well, what do I do with a 90-page planner? Like, how am I supposed to get my day, you know, et cetera, built around this big old planner? So just a warning, you know, and Lynn has more, you know, you can tag Lynn in a post inside the group and ask her more about ReWork if you like. But yeah, that's my warning to you, is that some of those books, you know, they give you this big old dense planner that you just can't get your head around. And I think what's more practical and simpler is if we focus on what we know is most important: client acquisition, client service, or client retention. The folks from Basecamp wrote it. So, you know, we know those folks. Those are good folks. All right. Excellent. Great. Okay. So as of now, I don't have any more questions to answer, and I don't see any more in the chat. So I won't extend this any longer than it needs to be. If you've got a question, go ahead and type that in. I'll wait about 10 or 15 more seconds. But if you don't, then we'll wrap this thing up. Oh, Jack's got a question. Yeah. Oh, okay. So Lynn talks about ReWork has a similar approach to what I just described. So there you go. Tag Lynn in a post, talk to Lynn, read ReWork, get better, right? Okay. So Lynn, I'm sorry, not Lynn, but Jack asked a question. What's my opinion of the irresistible sales magnets people are talking about? Right. Okay. Irresistible sales magnets is marketing speak, and marketing speak frustrates me. Because what the heck is an irresistible sales magnet? What is that? What when you go to the store, do they have an irresistible sales magnet on the shelf? Like, you know, give me 3 irresistible sales magnets and 2, you know, cans of juice. Like, what the heck is that? It's total marketing speak for marketing people. All right, pragmatically, right? What people are referring to is these ebooks, white papers, sometimes webinars, this content you can offer to ask someone to opt in, right? There's a lot of names for it, right? Opt in. Some folks call them lead magnets. Some folks call them opt in bribes. There's all kind of clever names folks have made for them. What people are talking about is one of those things. So an ebook to download, a white paper, a cheat sheet, etc. All that's cool. And doing that is cool. There's nothing wrong with the fundamental of doing that. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is that it's often charged with marketing speak, and it loses its value. Okay. Practically, this lead magnet that Jack is referring to, this lead magnet is designed to show your potential client that you have something that will help them. That's simply, hey, potential client, we realize that you're suffering from something, and we would like to engage you about that solution, or engage you about solving that for you. So here's a cheat sheet. Here are 5 things you need to understand so that you can begin to solve this problem. Here's a white paper. Here's a 30-page document that we've created so you can begin to understand how to solve that problem. Here's a downloadable video that we've created that outlines your potential solutions, etc. Right? But the spirit is not, you know, irresistible, blah, 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 blah. The spirit, especially for those of you who are selling, I mean, this is our community. We sell services to people, right? We work with real people. They're not buying candy bars. They're not buying impulse buys. They're paying a premium for a legitimate service. So you got to talk to people like they're real people. And so whatever it is that you choose to create should speak the language of, and we're trying to help you solve a problem. We know you're confronted with something, and we'd like to engage you about solving that. Your first step is to download this thing. That's why we made it. So there's nothing wrong with the tactic, if you will, of having something to opt in for. But you don't have to slather it in marketing language. You don't have to slather it in that fancy stuff, because it oftentimes you end up talking over the head of your potential client anyway. Talk about their problem, understand their urgency, and solve that problem for them. All right, great. Anything else, folks? Anything else? Any other questions? Plug them in. I'll give it a 10 count if we got something. If we don't have anything, cool beans. All right. Looks good. All right, folks. So good. This was good. This was number 2. I'm thinking we'll do this weekly. We'll see how we feel about it. So as you notice, here's my closing thought for today. As you notice, this is better. Right. The last one was dark, and I sounded like a machine, and it was weird, right? But we can't be perfect, man. You just do the best you can. So here we are. We're in this one. Got my microphone hooked up. I should sound better. I know I look better because I can see myself here in the screen. Version 2 is a whole lot better than version 1, but I had to do version 1 first to get to version 2. And even version 2 had a challenge. I didn't turn my stuff on. My computer was running out of juice, so I had to jump up to turn my computer on. Stuff happens. But don't let your fear of that stuff keep you from taking that next step. So great. There you have it. Enjoy your day. I'll talk to you soon. Take care, folks.